She got fired for helping an injured stranger unaware he was the Millionaire CEO. It was one of those grey, rain-soaked mornings where everything felt heavy. The sky hung low over downtown Seattle, pressing down like a weighted blanket, turning the world into shades of charcoal and slate. The air was thick with moisture, that particular Pacific Northwest dampness that seeped into your bones and made everything feel harder than it should be. And for Clara Evans, everything already felt impossibly hard. She stood at the bus stop, rain dripping from the edge of the shelter that barely provided cover, watching the minutes tick by on her phone with growing anxiety. The number 7 bus was late, again, which meant she was going to be late, again. And Mr. Reeves, the hotel manager, had made it abundantly clear after her last tardy arrival that there would be consequences if it happened again. Clara pulled her thin coat tighter around herself, wishing she'd been able to afford a new one before winter hit. This one had seen her through 3 Seattle winters already, and it showed. The zipper stuck halfway up, the lining was torn in places, and it did almost nothing to keep out the rain. But it was what she had, and Clara had learned long ago to make do with what she had. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mother. Mia asking about art class. What should I tell her? Clara's heart sank. The art class. 8-year-old Mia loved that art class more than anything, spent the whole week looking forward to her Saturday morning session where she got to paint and draw and create without worrying about anything else. But it cost $60 a month. And this month, that $60 had gone to the water bill that couldn't be delayed any longer. She typed back quickly, "Tell her I'll talk to her tonight. Love you both." The bus finally appeared through the rain, 15 minutes behind schedule. Clara climbed aboard, found a seat near the back, and watched the city slide past the foggy windows. She had 40 minutes to get to the Grandview Hotel, change into her uniform, and be on the 3rd floor ready to start her shift. Under normal circumstances, it would be tight but manageable. But the bus was moving slowly through the rain-heavy traffic, and Clara could feel the minutes slipping away from her like water through her fingers. She thought about Mia, probably eating breakfast right now at their small kitchen table, her grandmother Helen keeping her company before school. Thought about the stack of medical bills on the counter, the ones for her mother's chronic condition that required expensive medication and regular specialist visits. Thought about the rent that was due in 5 days and the paycheck that wouldn't quite cover it, even if she picked up every extra shift available. Clara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This was her life. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when she was young and full of dreams, but it was the life she had, and she was doing the best she could. Before we continue, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you're new here, hit subscribe because Clara and Elias's story is about to prove that kindness is never wasted, even when it costs you everything. The bus finally reached her stop, and Clara hurried off, immediately breaking into a jog despite the rain. She was already 20 minutes late, but if she could just get there and start working, maybe Mr. Reeves wouldn't make it a big deal. Maybe he'd understand that buses ran late sometimes, that life happened, that she was a good employee who worked hard and never complained. She was cutting through the alley behind the hotel, the shortcut all the employees used, when she saw him. At first, she thought it was a pile of discarded clothes or trash bags left by the dumpster, but then the pile moved, groaned, and Clara's steps faltered as she realized it was a person. A man, collapsed against the brick wall, his body slumped at an angle that looked painful and wrong. Clara stopped, her heart hammering. She should keep walking. She was already late. This wasn't her problem. Someone else would help. Someone else would call for help. But even as her mind ran through all the practical, sensible reasons to keep moving, her feet were carrying her toward him. "Sir," she called out, her voice uncertain. "Are you okay?" No response. Clara moved closer, kneeling down in a puddle without even thinking about it, the cold water immediately soaking through her pants. Up close, she could see that this wasn't a homeless person sleeping rough. The man was wearing what had once been expensive clothes, a button-down shirt, now torn and muddy, dress pants, leather shoes that probably cost more than Clara made in a week. His face was bruised, a nasty cut above his left eyebrow still bleeding sluggishly. His breathing was shallow, ragged. He looked like he'd been beaten, badly. "Sir, can you hear me?" Clara reached out with a trembling hand and gently touched his shoulder. His eyes opened, unfocused and glazed with pain. He tried to speak, but only a groan came out. Clara's nursing instincts kicked in. The training from the 2 years of community college she'd completed before her father got sick, and she'd had to drop out to help support the family. She quickly assessed him, conscious but disoriented. Visible trauma to the face and head, possible concussion, needed medical attention immediately. She pulled out her phone to call 911, but the man's hand shot out, surprisingly strong, and grabbed her wrist. "No," he managed, his voice rough and slurred. "No hospital." "You need help," Clara insisted. "You're hurt. Just need a minute, somewhere safe." Clara looked around the alley. They were alone. Rain was falling harder now, and this man was clearly in no condition to help himself. If she left him here, he could die. If she called an ambulance against his wishes, he might refuse treatment and end up in the same situation. There was really only one option. "Okay," she said, making a decision that would change everything. "Can you stand? I'll help you inside where it's dry, and then we'll figure out what to do." With considerable effort and a lot of Clara bearing more weight than her small frame should have been able to handle, they got the man to his feet. He was tall, probably 6'2" or 6'3", and solidly built. Clara was 5'4" on a good day, and maybe 120 pounds soaking wet, which she currently was. But she was stronger than she looked. Years of physical labor, of lifting and carrying and being on her feet for 12-hour shifts, had built a wiry strength that people often underestimated. She got her shoulder under his arm, wrapped her other arm around his waist, and started half carrying, half dragging him toward the hotel's service entrance. Every step was a struggle. The man could barely support his own weight, and Clara's muscles screamed in protest. Rain poured down on both of them, making the ground slippery and visibility poor. Clara's phone was buzzing in her pocket, probably her mother wondering where she was, but she couldn't answer it. All her focus was on getting this stranger to safety. They made it to the service entrance, and Clara used her employee keycard to open the door. The man stumbled as they crossed the threshold, and Clara had to brace herself against the doorframe to keep them both from falling. "Almost there," she panted. "Just a little further." She was aiming for the small employee break room just down the hall, where she could sit him down, get a better look at his injuries, and figure out the next step. But they'd only made it about 10 feet inside when a voice cut through the air like a whip. "Clara, what in God's name do you think you're doing?" Clara's blood turned to ice. She looked up to see Mr. Reeves striding toward them, his face purple with rage. Richard Reeves was a man in his mid-50s who had worked his way up to hotel manager through a combination of ruthless efficiency and an absolute intolerance for anything he perceived as disorder. He was tall, thin, with slicked-back grey hair and a permanent expression of disapproval. "Mr. Reeves, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Why you're 43 minutes late. Why you're tracking mud and water all over my clean floors. Why you're dragging some vagrant into my hotel." "He's not a vagrant. He's hurt. I found him in the alley. He needs—" "I don't care what he needs. You're supposed to be cleaning rooms on the 3rd floor, not playing Good Samaritan with people who are probably drunk or high." The injured man tried to speak. She was helping. Reeves didn't even look at him. "Clara, you are already on thin ice. This is the 3rd time you've been late this month. And now you're bringing unauthorized persons into the building, creating a mess and disrupting operations." "Mr. Reeves, please. Just give me 5 minutes to make sure he's okay, and then I'll get right to work. I'll stay late. I'll work through my break." "You'll do nothing of the sort, because you no longer work here. You're fired. Effective. Immediately." The words hit Clara like a physical blow. For a moment, she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she'd just heard. "What?" she whispered. "You heard me. Gather your things and leave. Security will escort you out. Mr. Reeves, please. I need this job. I have a daughter. I have bills. You should have thought of that before you decided to be late again and bring random people off the street into my hotel. This is a business, Clara, not a charity." Clara felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of Reeves. She gently lowered the injured man into a chair against the wall, making sure he was stable. "I'm sorry," she whispered to him. "I tried." The man looked at her, his eyes clearing slightly, and she saw something in them. Recognition? Gratitude? She couldn't tell. "Thank you," he managed to say, his voice stronger now. "For helping." Clara nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She turned to walk away, but Reeves's voice stopped her. "And Clara, don't bother using me as a reference. I'll make sure anyone who calls knows exactly why you were terminated." The cruelty of it, the casual destruction of not just her current job but her future prospects, nearly broke her. But Clara held her head high. She walked to the break room, grabbed her purse from her locker, and headed for the exit. As she passed the injured man one more time, she paused. "Please get help. Please be okay." Then she walked out into the rain, letting the door close behind her with a finality that felt like the ending of everything. Clara made it half a block before the tears started. She stood under a bus stop shelter, not even sure which bus she needed or where she was going, and let herself cry. Great, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep in her chest, the kind of crying that happened when your entire world collapsed and you had no idea how to put it back together. 3 years. She'd worked at that hotel for 3 years. Not glamorous work, not well paid, but steady. She'd shown up every day, done her job well, never complained even when guests were rude or when management piled on extra responsibilities without extra pay. And it was gone. Because she'd tried to help someone. Her phone buzzed. Her mother calling. Clara wiped her face and answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Hi, Mom." "Sweetie, where are you? I got worried when you didn't text back." I'm on my way home. Something happened." "What kind of something?" Clara took a shaky breath. "I got fired." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, quietly, "Oh, Clara, what happened?" Clara told her everything. The late bus, the injured man, Reeves's reaction, the termination. Her mother listened without interrupting, and when Clara finished, Helen Evans said exactly what Clara needed to hear. "You did the right thing." "Mom, I just lost my job." "You did the right thing," Helen repeated firmly. "That man needed help, and you helped him. The fact that your boss was too callous to see the value in that says everything about him and nothing about you." "But what are we going to do? Rent is due in 5 days. Your medication. We'll figure it out. We always do. Come home, honey. Come home and we'll figure it out together." Clara took the bus home in a daze. The apartment she shared with her mother and daughter was in a neighborhood that real estate agents politely called up and coming, and everyone else called sketchy. But it was home. 3 small rooms on the 2nd floor of a building that had seen better days, with neighbors who mostly minded their own business and a landlord who was willing to work with tenants when rent was occasionally late. When Clara walked in, Mia ran to her immediately. "Mama, you're home early." Clara caught her daughter in a hug, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, strawberry-scented and cheerful. Mia was 8 years old, all long limbs and wild curly hair, and questions about everything. She was smart, curious, kind, and completely unaware of how much her mother struggled to provide for her. "Hey baby, how was school?" "Good. We learned about the solar system. Did you know that Jupiter has 67 moons?" "I did not know that." "That's amazing." Helen emerged from the kitchen, her expression worried. She was only 58 but looked older, the chronic illness and years of stress aging her faster than they should have. But her eyes were still sharp, still filled with the strength that had gotten their family through countless hardships. "Mia, sweetheart, why don't you go work on your homework in your room for a bit? I need to talk to your mama about grown-up stuff." "Okay, Grandma." Mia kissed Clara's cheek and skipped off to her tiny bedroom. Helen waited until she heard the door close, then turned to Clara. "Tell me everything." They sat at the small kitchen table, and Clara went through the whole story again, in more detail. Helen listened, her expression shifting from concern to anger. That manager should be ashamed of himself. Firing you for helping someone? What kind of person does that? "The kind who cares more about rules than people," Clara said tiredly. "And he's going to make sure I can't get another job. He said he'd give me a bad reference." "He can't do that. That's illegal, isn't it? He can say I was terminated for abandoning my post and insubordination, which is technically true, but not the whole truth. No, but it's the part that matters to other employers. Helen reached across the table and took Clara's hand. We're going to get through this. How, Mom? Your medication alone costs $300 a month even with insurance. Rent is $850. Then there's food, utilities, Mia's school expenses. I have maybe $600 in savings. That'll cover rent this month and nothing else. I can skip a few doses of my medication. Absolutely not. Clara, be reasonable. No, Mom, your health isn't negotiable. We'll find another way. But sitting there in her small kitchen, looking at the stack of bills on the counter and the calendar with rent due circled in red, Clara had no idea what that other way could possibly be. The next few days were a blur of rejection. Clara applied to every hotel in the area, every cleaning service, every retail store that was hiring. She filled out applications until her fingers cramped, rewrote her resume a dozen times, trying to make 3 years of housekeeping sound more impressive than it was. And everywhere she applied, she got the same response. Either a polite, "We'll keep your resume on file," that meant no, or worse, the places that actually called the Grandview Hotel for a reference and came back with suddenly cold voices. "I'm sorry, Miss Evans, but we're looking for someone with a more reliable track record." After the 5th rejection that clearly came from Reeves poisoning the well, Clara wanted to scream. She was sitting in a coffee shop she couldn't afford, nursing a small black coffee that cost $3 she shouldn't have spent, when her phone rang. Unknown number. Clara almost didn't answer. Unknown numbers usually meant bill collectors, and she had nothing positive to tell them. But something made her hit accept. "Hello? Miss Clara Evans?" The voice was professional, female, polite. "Yes, this is Clara. My name is Jennifer Park. I'm the executive assistant to Elias Hayden, CEO of Hayden Industries. Mr. Hayden would like to meet with you." Clara's mind went blank. "I'm sorry. I think you have the wrong number. I don't know anyone named Elias Hayden. You helped him 2 weeks ago, outside the Grandview Hotel. The injured man." Clara's heart started pounding. "Is he okay? Did something happen?" "Mr. Hayden is fine, thanks to you. He's been trying to locate you. Would you be available to meet with him tomorrow at 10 a.m. at our offices?" Yes, I can do that." Jennifer gave her the address, confirmed the appointment, and ended the call with professional efficiency. Clara sat staring at her phone for a full minute, trying to process what had just happened. The injured man wanted to meet with her. Why? To thank her? To pay her back somehow? She'd helped him because it was the right thing to do, not because she expected anything in return. She texted her mother. "Something weird just happened. I'll explain when I get home." That night, Clara told Helen and Mia about the call. Mia was excited, imagining all sorts of dramatic scenarios. Maybe he's a prince in disguise, or a secret agent. More likely he just wants to say thank you in person, Clara said, though a tiny part of her wondered if maybe, just maybe, this could lead to something. A job reference that wasn't poisoned by Reeves. A connection to someone who might know of openings somewhere. She spent the evening preparing for the meeting, pressing her one good dress, the navy blue one she'd bought for her father's funeral and hadn't worn since. It was simple, professional, slightly out of date but clean and respectable. Helen watched her fuss over her appearance with a small smile. "You're nervous. I don't know what he wants. What if this is some kind of setup? What if he's angry that I didn't call an ambulance like I should have? Then you'll deal with it. But Clara, I think you should go into this with an open mind. Maybe something good is about to happen." "Good things don't happen to me, Mom." "That's not true. Mia is a good thing. Your health is a good thing. We have a roof over our heads and food on the table. Good things happen all the time. You've just been too busy surviving to notice them." Clara hugged her mother, grateful as always for the woman's unshakable optimism, even in the face of impossible odds. That night, she barely slept. She kept thinking about the injured man, trying to remember details of his face beyond the bruises and blood. Had he seemed kind, angry? She'd been so focused on helping him that she hadn't really looked at him as a person, just as someone who needed help. And now he wanted to meet her, at the offices of Hayden Industries, whatever that was. Clara finally gave up on sleep around 5 in the morning and got up to research the company. What she found made her stomach drop. Hayden Industries was huge, a conglomerate with interests in real estate, technology, hospitality, and a dozen other sectors. The company was valued at over $2 billion, and Elias Hayden, its founder and CEO, was one of the richest men in the Pacific Northwest. Clara stared at the photos of him on the company website. Professional headshots, Elias in expensive suits at charity events, at grand openings, at business conferences. He looked polished, powerful, completely in control. Nothing like the broken, bleeding man she'd found in an alley, but it was definitely him. The same strong jawline, the same dark hair, the same intense eyes that had looked at her with gratitude even through the pain. Clara had saved the life of a billionaire, and now he wanted to see her. She had absolutely no idea what to expect. The next morning, Clara dressed carefully, made sure Mia got off to school, and took the bus downtown. Hayden Industries was headquartered in one of the tallest buildings in Seattle, a gleaming tower of glass and steel that screamed money and power. Clara felt completely out of place the moment she walked into the lobby. Everything was marble and chrome and modern art that probably cost more than she made in a year. People in expensive suits moved through the space with purpose and confidence, and Clara in her old navy dress felt like a child playing dress-up. She approached the reception desk, her voice smaller than she'd intended. "I have an appointment with Mr. Hayden, Clara Evans." The receptionist, a woman with perfect makeup and a designer blouse, checked her computer and smiled. "Yes, Miss Evans, Mr. Hayden is expecting you. Take the elevator to the 32nd floor. Someone will meet you there." The elevator ride felt eternal. Clara watched the floor numbers climb, her stomach doing flips. What was she doing here? What could a man like Elias Hayden possibly want with her? The doors opened to a reception area that was somehow even more intimidating than the lobby. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city and Puget Sound beyond. The furniture was sleek and modern, the artwork on the walls probably worth more than Clara's apartment building. A woman in her 30s, professionally dressed and radiating competent efficiency, stood to greet her. "Miss Evans? I'm Jennifer Park. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for inviting me, though I'm still not entirely sure why I'm here." Jennifer's smile was warm. "Mr. Hayden will explain everything, if you'll follow me." She led Clara down a hallway to a massive corner office. Jennifer knocked once, then opened the door. "Mr. Hayden, Miss Evans is here." And there he was, standing behind an enormous desk, looking out the windows at the city below. He turned when they entered, and Clara's breath caught. It was definitely the same man, but transformed. The bruises had faded to yellowing remnants, the cut on his forehead now just a thin red line. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost what Clara used to make in 6 months. His dark hair was styled, his presence commanding in a way that filled the entire room, but when he looked at her, his expression softened into something warmer. "Clara," he said, and his voice was the same as she remembered, deep and steady. "Thank you for coming." Clara stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed and terrified and completely out of her depth. This was the man she'd saved, and she had no idea what happened next. If you're already invested in Clara's story and want to know what Elias has planned, hit that like button, drop a comment, and tell me what you think is going to happen, and make sure you're subscribed. Elias gestured to one of the chairs across from his desk. "Please, sit. Can Jennifer get you anything? Coffee, tea, water?" Clara's voice came out smaller than she intended. "I'm fine, thank you." Jennifer quietly left the room, closing the door behind her. Clara sat on the edge of the leather chair, her hands folded in her lap, trying not to look as overwhelmed as she felt. The office was enormous, with views that seemed to stretch forever, and she was acutely aware of how out of place she looked. Elias didn't sit behind his desk. Instead, he took the chair next to hers, eliminating the barrier, making the conversation feel less formal. Up close, Clara could see he was probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair that had a slight wave to it, and eyes that were an unusual shade of grey-green. He looked healthy now, completely recovered from the injuries she'd seen 2 weeks ago. "First, I need to apologize," Elias said. "I've had you brought here without any real explanation, which must be confusing and probably intimidating." "A little," Clara admitted. "Let me start from the beginning." Elias leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. 2 weeks ago, I was leaving a late meeting at the Grandview Hotel. I own that hotel, along with several others in the chain. I often do unannounced inspections, checking on operations, talking to staff when they don't know I'm the owner. It helps me understand what's really happening in my properties. Clara nodded, not sure where this was going. "I was walking to my car when 3 men ambushed me in the alley. They wanted my wallet, my watch, my phone. I fought back, which was stupid in retrospect, and they beat me pretty badly. Took everything and left me there." Clara's hand went to her mouth. "That's awful. I was disoriented, hurt, couldn't call for help. I remember lying there thinking about how many people must have walked past me. It was morning by then, people going to work, and I could hear footsteps, voices. But no one stopped. No one even looked." His eyes met hers. "Except you." Clara felt her throat tighten. "I couldn't just leave you there. Most people did. But you didn't. You stopped. You helped me. You brought me inside even though you were late for work, even though you were getting soaked in the rain, even though I was a complete stranger who probably looked like trouble. You were hurt. That's all that mattered." Elias smiled, but there was something sad in it. "That's exactly my point. You saw a human being who needed help, and you helped. No questions, no hesitation, no concern for what it might cost you." "I didn't know it would cost me my job," Clara said quietly. "I know, and that brings me to why you're here." Elias's expression hardened. "After security called the ambulance and took me to the hospital, the first thing I asked when I was coherent was about you, the woman who helped me. But no one knew who you were. It took me 2 weeks and my entire security team to track you down." Clara's eyes widened. "Why would you go to that much trouble?" "Because when I finally found you, I discovered that you'd been fired. Because of me. Because you stopped to help me." "Hey, Mr. Hayden." "Elias, please." "Elias," Clara corrected, the name feeling strange on her tongue. "I wasn't fired because of you. I was fired because Mr. Reeves is, well, he's not a kind man. Mr. Reeves no longer works for me." Clara's head snapped up. "What?" "I terminated his employment 3 days ago. After I learned what he did to you, I reviewed his entire tenure as manager. Turns out, you weren't the first good employee he's fired for petty reasons. He had a pattern of abusing his power, treating staff poorly, prioritizing appearance over actual service. He was a liability I should have addressed long ago." "You fired him because of me?" "I fired him because he was a poor manager who punished kindness and created a toxic work environment. What happened to you was just the final confirmation of what I should have seen sooner." Clara sat back in her chair trying to process this. Mr. Reeves was gone. The man who'd made her life miserable, who'd sabotaged her job search, who'd destroyed her livelihood for helping someone, was gone. "There's more," Elias continued. "I found out that Reeves has been giving you negative references to any employer who calls, saying you were unreliable and insubordinate. That's why you haven't been able to find work." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. She'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made it real. "He told me he would do that. I just didn't think he actually would." "Well, he won't be doing it anymore. And I've had my legal team send cease and desist letters. If he says anything negative about you to any future employer, we'll sue him for defamation." "I don't understand. Why are you doing all this for me?" Elias was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Because you lost everything for helping me. Your job, your income, your ability to find new work. All because you showed compassion when no one else did. That's not right. And I have the power to make it right, so I'm going to." He stood and walked to his desk, picking up a folder. "This is an employment offer. I'd like you to work for my company." Clara's heart started racing. "As what? A housekeeper?" "No. As Community Outreach Coordinator for the Hayden Foundation. It's our charitable arm, focusing on homelessness, job training, family support services. The position requires compassion, judgment under pressure, and an understanding of what real people are actually going through. You've demonstrated all of those qualities. He handed her the folder. Clara opened it with shaking hands. The first thing she saw was the salary, 3 times what she'd been making at the hotel. Full health benefits, including comprehensive coverage for dependents and parents, retirement contributions, paid time off. "This is too much," Clara whispered. "I don't have a college degree. I don't have experience in non-profit work. I'm not qualified for this. You're more qualified than anyone I could hire off the street with a degree. Clara, this position isn't about credentials. It's about understanding what people in crisis actually need. It's about seeing the human being behind the statistics. You've lived that reality. You understand it in a way someone who studied it from an academic distance never could. But I don't know anything about running programs or managing budgets or... That's what training is for. I'll provide you with everything you need to succeed. Mentorship, professional development, whatever support you need. But the core of what this job requires, the empathy and integrity and courage to do the right thing, even when it's hard, that can't be taught. You already have that." Clara stared at the offer, her vision blurring with tears. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. "Why?" she asked again. "I helped you because it was right, not because I expected anything in return." "I know. That's exactly why I want to do this." Elias sat on the edge of his desk, looking at her directly. "Clara, I was raised by my grandmother after my parents died when I was 10. She worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat, and I watched her sacrifice everything for me. She used to say that wealth isn't measured in money but in the lives you touch." His voice softened with memory. "When she died 5 years ago, I started the foundation in her name. But I'll be honest, I've been running it from a distance, writing checks, reviewing reports, but not really connecting to the actual work. When you helped me that day, you reminded me of her, of what real compassion looks like, of why any of this matters." He paused. "I don't want this to be charity. I want this to be an opportunity. You bring something to my organization that money can't buy. And in return, you get stability, resources, the chance to help people the way you helped me. Is that something you'd be interested in?" Clara looked down at the offer again, thought about Mia and the art class she'd had to cancel, thought about her mother and the medication they struggled to afford, thought about the rent due in 3 days and the eviction notice she'd been terrified would come. This was a lifeline, more than a lifeline. This was a complete transformation of her circumstances. But a small voice in her head, the one that sounded like all the years of struggle and disappointment, whispered that it was too good to be true, that there had to be a catch, that people like Elias Hayden didn't just hand people like her dream jobs without expecting something in return. As if reading her mind, Elias spoke again. "I know this seems overwhelming, and I know you have no reason to trust me beyond the fact that you helped me once, and I'm trying to return the favor. So I'm not asking for an answer right now. Take the offer home, think about it, discuss it with your family. If you have questions, Jennifer can answer them. Take a few days." 5 blind. Take a few days. "A few days?" Clara said. "I need to give you an answer in a few days?" "No. I need an answer whenever you're ready to give me one. A few days, a few weeks, whatever you need. The position will be here when you're ready." Clara stood, clutching the folder to her chest. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Is this really just about helping me, or is there something else you want?" Elias met her eyes steadily. "Right now, this is about righting a wrong. You lost your job because of me, and I want to fix that. Beyond that," he hesitated, "I'd like to get to know you better, as a person, not just as an employee. But that's separate from the job offer. If you take the position and want our relationship to be purely professional, I'll respect that completely." Clara felt her cheeks warm. "You want to get to know me? Is that so surprising? You're kind, brave, selfless, and from the background check my security team ran, which I apologize for, but it's standard procedure. You're also a devoted mother and daughter who's been dealing with impossible circumstances with grace and strength. Why wouldn't I want to know you better?" "But because I'm nobody," Clara said quietly. "I'm a single mother living paycheck to paycheck in a tiny apartment. You're a billionaire CEO, We don't exactly run in the same circles. What if I don't care about circles? What if I just care about character? Clara didn't know what to say to that. She clutched the folder tighter. I should go. I need to think about all of this. Of course. Elias walked her to the door. Jennifer will see you out. And Clara, thank you for helping me that day, for being exactly who you are, and for considering this opportunity. As Clara rode the elevator back down to the lobby, her mind was spinning. The job offer felt real. The folder in her hands was substantial, official, detailed. But the rest of it, Elias wanting to know her better, treating her like she mattered beyond just being someone he owed a debt to, that felt like something out of a dream. She took the bus home, barely noticing the stops along the way. When she walked into her apartment, Helen took one look at her face and immediately sent Mia to her room. Tell me everything, her mother demanded. Clara did. She laid out the entire conversation, showed her mother the job offer, explained about Reeves being fired and the cease and desist letter. Helen read through the offer carefully, her expression shifting from disbelief to cautious hope. This is real? I think so. I mean, I was in his office, in this huge building. He had security teams and executive assistants. It all seemed very legitimate, and he wants to hire you for this position because you helped him? He says I'm qualified because I understand what people in crisis need. That compassion can't be taught. Helen set down the folder and looked at her daughter seriously. What does your gut tell you? Clara thought about it. My gut says he's sincere, that he really does want to help me because I helped him. But it also says this is too good to be true, and things that seem too good to be true usually are. But sometimes they aren't, Helen said gently. Sometimes good things happen to good people. Do they? Because I've been a good person my whole life, Mom, and good things haven't exactly been falling in my lap. You have Mia. You have me. You have your health. Those are good things. I know, but... Clara, listen to me. Helen took her daughter's hands. You've spent your entire adult life in survival mode, working hard, sacrificing, doing the right thing even when it cost you. And yes, you've faced hardships, but maybe, just maybe, this is the universe's way of balancing the scales. Or it's too good to be true and I'm going to get hurt. Possibly, but you won't know unless you try. And sweetheart, what do you have to lose? You're currently unemployed with $300 in the bank and rent due in 3 days. This man is offering you a lifeline. Why not take it? Clara knew her mother was right. The logical choice was obvious. But something held her back. Some fear that accepting this would change everything in ways she couldn't predict or control. That night, after Mia was asleep, Clara sat at her laptop and researched everything she could find about Elias Hayden. There were hundreds of articles, interviews, photos. He was featured in business magazines, society pages, charity event coverage. He'd built Hayden Industries from a small real estate investment company into a massive conglomerate. But what struck Clara most were the articles about the Hayden Foundation. It had been established 5 years ago in memory of Elias's grandmother, Martha Hayden. The foundation focused on exactly what Elias had said: homelessness services, job training, family support. And unlike many charitable foundations run by wealthy people, this one seemed to actually make a difference. There were testimonials from people who'd been helped, stories of lives changed, families lifted out of poverty. If Clara took this job, she'd be part of that. She'd be helping create those success stories. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. Over the next 2 days, Clara wrestled with the decision. She made lists of pros and cons. She talked to her mother endlessly. She even called her best friend Shanice, who she'd worked with at the hotel, and got an outside perspective. "Girl, are you crazy?" Shanice had said when Clara explained the situation. "This man is offering you 3 times your old salary to do meaningful work, and you're hesitating? What is there to think about? What if it's not real? What if there's some catch I'm not seeing? Then you deal with it when it comes. But Clara, you can't let fear keep you from taking opportunities, not when you've got Mia and your mama depending on you." On the 3rd day, Clara made her decision. She called the number Jennifer had given her. Hayden Industries, Jennifer Park speaking. "Hi, Jennifer. This is Clara Evans." "Clara, How are you? Have you had time to think about the offer? I have, and I'd like to accept, if it's still available. She could hear the smile in Jennifer's voice. It absolutely is. Mr. Hayden will be thrilled. When can you start? As soon as you need me. How about Monday? That gives you a few days to get arrangements sorted. We'll have everything ready for you. After hanging up, Clara sat in stunned silence. She'd done it. She'd said yes. She was employed again. More than employed. She had a real job, with real benefits, and the chance to actually make a difference. She told her mother and Mia that night over dinner. Mia was excited about the health insurance. Does this mean Grandma can get her medicine without us worrying? And Helen cried happy tears. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart, her mother said. Not for getting the job, but for being brave enough to help that man even when it cost you everything. That's the kind of person you are. That's the kind of person you've always been. That Saturday, 2 days before her start date, Clara's phone rang. Elias. Hi, she said, surprised. I wasn't expecting to hear from you directly. I hope that's okay. I wanted to personally welcome you to the team and see if you had any questions before Monday. I have about 1,000 questions, but I'm sure they'll all be answered during orientation. Elias laughed. Probably, but I actually called for another reason. I wanted to ask if you'd have dinner with me. Tonight, if you're free. Clara's heart skipped. Dinner? I know I said the job and getting to know you were separate things, and they are. You're hired regardless of whether you say yes to dinner. But I meant what I said about wanting to know you better, as a person, not as an employee. So this is me, asking you on a date, completely separate from work. You can absolutely say no and it won't affect anything professional. Clara's mind raced. A date with Elias Hayden, the billionaire CEO who'd offered her a dream job, and who, if she was being honest with herself, she'd been thinking about almost constantly since their meeting. I have a daughter, Clara heard herself say, an 8-year-old, and my mother lives with us. I can't just go out on a whim. I understand. What if we made it early? Say, 6 o'clock? You could be home by 8:30, and if you need to bring your daughter, that's completely fine. I'd love to meet her. You want to meet my daughter on a first date? I want to know your life, Clara, and your daughter is a huge part of that. But if you'd prefer it to be just us, I completely understand. Your call. Clara thought about Mia's reaction when she'd mentioned that the nice man she'd helped wanted to give her a job. Her daughter had been thrilled, calling him the man Mama saved. She'd probably be over the moon to actually meet him. Okay, Clara said. 6 o'clock, but somewhere casual. And yes, I'll bring Mia. My mom can use a quiet evening. Perfect. I know just the place. That evening, Clara and Mia met Elias at a family-friendly Italian restaurant in their neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just good food and a relaxed atmosphere. Elias was there when they arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking more approachable than he had in his office. You must be Mia, he said, kneeling down to her level. Your mom told me you're 8 and you like art. Mia's eyes went wide. You're the man Mama helped. I am, and I'm very glad she did. Dinner was surprisingly easy. Elias asked Mia about school, about her favorite subjects, about what she liked to draw. He listened to her answers with genuine interest, not the patronizing attention adults sometimes gave children. He told her about his grandmother, who had also loved art, and how she used to paint watercolors. I still have some of her paintings, he said. Maybe sometime you could come see them. Really? Mia's face lit up. Clara watched the interaction, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. This powerful, wealthy man was sitting in a modest neighborhood restaurant, completely focused on making her daughter feel special. After Mia excused herself to the restroom, Elias turned to Clara. She's wonderful. You should be very proud. I am. She's the best thing I've ever done. Her father? Not in the picture. Left when I told him I was pregnant. I haven't heard from him in 8 years. His loss, Elias said simply. They talked about other things. Clara's childhood, growing up with parents who worked hard, but always struggled financially. Elias's childhood after his parents died, being raised by a grandmother who taught him that integrity mattered more than wealth. She'd have liked you, Elias said. My grandmother. She always said you could tell a person's character by what they did when they had nothing to gain from it. Is that why you're doing all this? Because your grandmother would have approved? Partly, but mostly because you remind me that there are still good people in the world. People who choose kindness even when it costs them. That's rare, Clara. Rarer than you think. When Elias walked them to their bus stop after dinner, Mia hugged him goodbye without hesitation. Thank you for dinner, and for giving Mama a job. Now she's not sad anymore. And after Mia skipped ahead to look in a store window, Elias turned to Clara. She's right, you know. When I first met you in my office, you looked so sad. Like the weight of the world was on your shoulders. It kind of was. And now? Now I feel hopeful. Which is terrifying because hope means there's something to lose. Elias took her hand gently. I'm not going to hurt you, Clara. I can't promise everything will be perfect or that there won't be challenges, but I can promise that my intentions are genuine. I want to know you. I want to see where this could go. Is that something you'd be open to? Clara looked at their joined hands, at this man who'd come into her life in the most unexpected way, who'd somehow become important to her in just a few short weeks. Yes, she said quietly. I'm open to it. Elias smiled, and it transformed his whole face. Good, because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the moment you knelt down in the rain to help a stranger. He kissed her forehead gently, a gesture that felt both respectful and intimate. I'll see you Monday. And Clara, thank you for taking a chance on this. On the job, on dinner, on me. As Clara and Mia rode the bus home, her daughter chatted excitedly about the restaurant and Elias and how nice he was. Clara listened with half her attention, the other half focused on the feeling of possibility that had taken root in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, her mother was right. Maybe good things did happen to good people. Maybe kindness did get rewarded. Maybe this was the beginning of something beautiful. If you're rooting for Clara and Elias to make this work, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen when Clara starts her new job. And make sure you're subscribed. Part cent of San. Asterisk. Asterisk. She got fired for helping an injured stranger, unaware he was the Millionaire CEO. Asterisk. Asterisk. Clara's first day at Hayden Industries started with a text from Elias at 6 in the morning. Good luck today. You're going to be amazing. E. She smiled at her phone, feeling a flutter of nerves and excitement. Helen noticed as she poured coffee in the kitchen. He's already texting you, just wishing me luck on my first day. Helen smiled knowingly. That man is smitten with you. Mom, don't. It's too new, too complicated. I need to focus on doing well at this job. You can do both, you know. Be good at your job and let someone care about you. Clara kissed her mother's cheek and headed out, arriving at the Hayden Industries building 30 minutes early. Jennifer met her in the lobby with a warm smile and a coffee. Welcome to your first day. Mr. Hayden wanted me to give you the full orientation. Then he'd like to meet with you this afternoon to discuss your initial projects. The morning was a whirlwind of paperwork, building tours, introductions to various department heads, and information about the Foundation's current initiatives. Clara's head was spinning by lunchtime, but in a good way. This was real. She had an office, small but bright with a window view. She had business cards being printed with her name and title. She had colleagues who welcomed her warmly. At 2 o'clock, Jennifer appeared at her office door. Mr. Hayden is ready for you. Clara followed her to the executive floor, trying to calm her racing heart. This was her boss now. She needed to be professional, competent, focused, not thinking about how his hand had felt holding hers or how he'd looked at her daughter with genuine warmth. Elias stood when she entered his office, smiling. Clara, how's your first day going? Overwhelming but good. There's so much to learn. You'll get there. I have complete faith in you. He gestured to the small conference table by the windows rather than the formal desk. Have a seat. I want to go over some of the Foundation's current challenges and get your perspective. They spent the next hour discussing programs, budgets, and community needs. Clara was surprised by how much she had to contribute. Her years of struggle, of navigating social services and community resources while trying to support her family, gave her insights that Elias's team hadn't considered. We're spending thousands on job training programs, but no one's addressing the fact that people can't attend training if they don't have childcare. Clara pointed out. Or transportation, or work clothes for interviews. We're treating the surface problem without addressing the underlying barriers. Elias leaned back, studying her. You're absolutely right. How would you fix it? Integrated services, partner with childcare providers, create a clothing bank, provide bus passes, make it so when someone enrolls in training, all the obstacles are removed at once. That's brilliant. Can you put together a proposal? I've been here 6 hours, and you've already identified a major gap in our services. Clara, this is exactly why I hired you. You see what others miss because you've lived it. Over the following weeks, Clara threw herself into the work. She visited shelters and community centers, talked to people receiving services, identified gaps and opportunities. She worked closely with the foundation team, gradually earning their respect not through her connection to Elias, but through the quality of her ideas and her genuine commitment to helping people. She and Elias were carefully professional at the office. No lingering glances, no personal conversations in front of others. But after hours, they continued building something neither of them wanted to rush or ruin. Elias came to dinner at Clara's apartment, charming both Helen and Mia with his genuine interest in their lives. He brought art supplies for Mia and research specialists for Helen's condition. He met Clara's best friend Shanice and endured her protective interrogation with good humor. I like him, Shanice declared after Elias left. He's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more arrogant, more showy? But he's just normal, in a really good way. Clara introduced Elias to her world, and slowly, he introduced her to his. A quiet dinner with his business partner and friend, Marcus. A charity event where Clara felt out of place, but Elias stayed by her side, making sure she was comfortable. His downtown penthouse that was beautiful, but surprisingly understated. I expected more, Clara said, looking around the space that was elegant but not ostentatious. More what? I don't know. Gold faucets? A shark tank? Isn't that what billionaires have? Elias laughed. I'm not Tony Stark. This is just where I live. They were taking it slow, both of them aware of the complications, the power dynamic at work, Clara's responsibilities to her daughter and mother, the very real differences in their backgrounds and resources. But slowly, carefully, they were building trust. 3 months into her job, Clara presented her integrated services proposal to the foundation board. She was terrified, standing in front of 12 people, including Elias, explaining her vision for how they could actually help people break cycles of poverty rather than just providing temporary relief. When she finished, there was a moment of silence that made her stomach drop. Then one of the board members, an older woman named Patricia who ran a major non-profit, started clapping. This is the most thoughtful, practical proposal I've seen in 20 years of doing this work. When can we start implementing it? Elias caught her eye across the table and smiled, proud and supportive, but letting her have this moment for herself. The program launched 2 months later. Pathways to Success provided job training with wraparound services, childcare, transportation, clothing, even help with housing and food assistance. The response was overwhelming. Within the first month, they had a waiting list of over 300 people. Clara worked long hours, often staying late to make sure every detail was handled. She loved the work, loved seeing the direct impact, but it was exhausting, and she was struggling to balance everything. One evening, she was still at the office at 7:30, reviewing applications, when Elias appeared in her doorway. You're still here, just finishing up. Clara, you've been here since 6 this morning. That's a 13-hour day. The program launch requires extra time. I want to make sure we do it right. Elias came into her office and gently closed her laptop. You can't pour from an empty cup. You need to go home, have dinner with your family, sleep. I'm fine. You're exhausted. I can see it. His voice softened. I know you want to prove yourself. I know you feel like you have to work twice as hard to show you deserve this position. But Clara, you've already proven yourself. The board loves you. The team respects you. You don't have to sacrifice your health to earn your place here. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. I'm just scared that if I slow down, if I take my foot off the gas, it'll all fall apart. Elias knelt beside her chair. It won't. You've built something solid, something that will sustain itself because it's good work based on sound principles. You can trust that. I don't know how to trust that. My whole life, the moment I relaxed, something went wrong. I know, but maybe it's time to learn a new pattern. He took her hands. Let me take you home. Have dinner with me and Mia and your mom. Take tomorrow off. I can't take a day off in the middle of a program launch. Yes, you can. You have an excellent team. They can handle one day without you, and if any real emergency comes up, they'll call. But Clara, you need rest. She knew he was right. She was running on fumes, had been for weeks. Okay, tomorrow off, but I'm checking my email. I'll allow morning and evening email checks, nothing between 9 and 5. That evening, Elias came to her apartment with takeout from Mia's favorite Thai restaurant. They had dinner together, all four of them, and it felt like family. Comfortable, warm, real. After Mia went to bed and Helen excused herself to give them privacy, Clara and Elias sat on her small couch, her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for making me leave the office," she said. "Thank you for letting me take care of you. I'm not used to that, someone taking care of me." "I know, but maybe you could get used to it." Elias shifted so he could look at her. "Clara, we've been doing this for 4 months now, taking it slow, being careful, making sure this is real. And I need you to know that for me, it is real, completely real." Clara's heart started racing. "Elias, I'm not asking you for any commitments you're not ready to make, but I need you to know that I love you. I love your strength and your compassion and the way you see the world. I love how you are with Mia and your mother. I love that you challenge me to be better, to do better, to remember what actually matters." Tears slid down Clara's cheeks. "I love you too. I've been trying not to, trying to protect myself, but I do. I love you." Elias kissed her then, deep and tender and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "So, what do we do now?" Clara asked. "Now we stop being so careful. We let this be what it is. We see where it goes. People at work are going to talk. Let them. We're not doing anything wrong. You earned your position. Our relationship doesn't change that. Your business associates are going to wonder what you're doing with a single mother from a struggling background. Then they can wonder. Clara, I don't care what anyone thinks. I care about you, about us, about building something real." Over the next few months, they stopped hiding their relationship. It wasn't a grand announcement, just a gradual letting down of guards. Elias would stop by Clara's office with coffee. They'd have lunch together occasionally. People noticed, and yes, some whispered. But Clara's work spoke for itself. The Pathways program was a massive success, changing lives in measurable, documented ways. 6 months after the program launched, Clara was invited to speak at a national conference on poverty solutions. She was terrified, but Elias encouraged her. "You have something to say that people need to hear. You've lived it, and you've created solutions that work. Share that." Her speech at the conference was powerful. She talked about her own experiences, about losing her job for helping someone, about the barriers that kept good people trapped in poverty, about how real change required seeing people as humans, not statistics. The response was overwhelming. 3 other cities wanted to replicate the Pathways model. Clara was offered consulting opportunities, speaking engagements, even a book deal. "This is insane," she told Elias. "A year ago I was cleaning hotel rooms. Now people want to hear my ideas? Your ideas are worth hearing. You're worth hearing. It's because of you. Because you gave me this opportunity. I gave you a platform. You did everything else. Clara, you've earned every bit of this recognition." One evening, 8 months into their relationship, Elias took Clara back to the alley where they'd first met. It had been transformed, just as he'd promised. Now it was a small community garden maintained by local residents, with a plaque dedicating it to second chances and the kindness of strangers. "Do you remember what you said to me that day?" Elias asked as they walked through the garden. "I asked if you could hear me. After that, when you were helping me inside." Clara thought back. "I said, please be okay." "You did. Even though you didn't know me, even though helping me was costing you, you just wanted me to be okay." Elias stopped walking and turned to face her. Clara, that day you saved my life, but you've been saving it every day since. You've reminded me what matters, what real success looks like, what love looks like. He got down on one knee, and Clara's hands flew to her mouth. I know we said we'd take this slow, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to help raise Mia. I want to take care of your mother the way she took care of you. I want to build a life together, a family together. He pulled out a ring box. Inside was a simple, elegant diamond ring. Clara Evans, will you marry me? Clara was crying, nodding, laughing all at once. Yes, God, yes. Elias slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her as the evening light filtered through the trees they'd planted in what used to be a place of pain. When they told Mia and Helen that evening, Mia squealed and jumped up and down. Does this mean Elias is going to be my dad? Elias knelt down to her level. If that's okay with you, I know I can never replace your biological father, but I'd be honored to be the dad who's actually here, who shows up for you, who loves you and your mum with everything I have. Mia threw her arms around his neck. I'd like that. Helen cried happy tears and hugged both of them. You two are good for each other. You make each other better. The wedding was small and intimate, held in the community garden where Elias had proposed. Helen was healthy, her condition stabilized with the excellent care Elias had ensured she received. Mia was the flower girl, beaming with pride. Shanice was maid of honor, and Marcus stood up for Elias. Clara wore a simple white dress, nothing extravagant, but she felt beautiful. As she walked down the aisle between the raised garden beds toward Elias, she thought about the journey that had brought her here, the rain-soaked morning when she'd stopped to help a stranger, the devastating moment of losing her job, the fear and struggle that had followed. All of it had led to this man, this love, this life she was building. When they exchanged vows, Clara's voice was steady and sure. Elias, a year ago I helped you because it was the right thing to do. I had no idea that single act of compassion would change my entire life. You've given me so much security, opportunity, love, but more than that, you've shown me that I'm worthy of good things. That kindness isn't weakness. That choosing to help someone, even when it costs you everything, is never the wrong choice. Elias's vows were equally emotional. Clara, when I was lying in that alley, I'd lost everything. My wallet, my phone, my sense of safety. But then you appeared, like an answer to a prayer I didn't know I was praying. You gave me more than physical help. You gave me hope. You reminded me what humanity looks like at its best. Loving you has made me a better man, a better leader, a better human being, and I promise to spend the rest of my life worthy of the gift you gave me that day. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. Elias kissed Clara deeply, then scooped up Mia and included her in the embrace, the three of them becoming a family officially. 2 years later, Clara stood in front of a much larger crowd. The Pathways to Success program had expanded to 12 cities and helped over 5,000 people find stable employment and housing. She'd written a book about her experiences and her approach to poverty solutions that had become required reading in social work programs. But today, she was here for a different reason. The city was renaming the community garden in honor of her work. It would now be called Clara's Garden, a place of second chances. Elias stood in the crowd with Mia, now 10 years old, and Helen, healthier than she'd been in years. Also present was their son, 18-month-old Daniel, named after Clara's father. As Clara cut the ribbon on the new sign, she looked at her family and thought about the impossible journey that had brought them here. From hotel housekeeper to foundation director, from struggling single mother to wife and mother of 2, from invisible to seen. Thank you all for being here, she said to the gathered crowd. This garden represents something important to me. It's built on the site where I made a choice that cost me everything I had. I lost my job, my income, my security. But that choice also gave me everything I never knew I needed. She looked at Elias. I learned that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it costs you, is never wrong. I learned that compassion isn't weakness. I learned that sometimes losing everything makes room for something better than you ever imagined. After the ceremony, families filled the garden. Children played on the playground equipment Elias had funded. Community members tended the vegetable beds. A group of Pathways program graduates, now employed and stable, gathered to thank Clara for changing their lives. That evening, back at the home, Clara and Elias shared a beautiful but not ostentatious house with room for everyone. They had dinner together. Mia told them about her day at school. Helen shared stories about taking Daniel to the park. Elias talked about a new foundation initiative, and Clara looked around the table at her family, her improbable, impossible, beautiful family, and felt gratitude so profound it made her chest tight. "What are you thinking about?" Elias asked, noticing her expression. "Just how different my life is from what I thought it would be. How one moment, one choice, changed everything." Elias reached across the table and took her hand. "Best choice you ever made." "Best choice we both made," Clara corrected. "You chose to find me, to help me, to love me. Easiest choices of my life." 17. Later, after the kids were in bed and Helen had retired to her room, Clara and Elias stood on their back porch, looking out at the garden they'd planted together. "Do you ever think about that day?" Clara asked. "In the alley?" "All the time. It was the worst day of my life and the best day of my life." "How can it be both?" "Because it was the day I almost died, and the day I started really living." Clara leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his presence. "I was so angry when I got fired. I thought my life was over. And now? Now I know it was just beginning. Everything I lost made room for everything I gained." Elias kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for stopping that day, for being exactly who you are, for showing me what really matters. Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible, for valuing me when I felt worthless, for loving me even when I didn't think I deserved it." They stood together in comfortable silence, two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way, who'd built something beautiful out of a moment of compassion. Because sometimes the greatest love stories start with the simplest acts of kindness. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to gain what you truly need. And sometimes, when you choose to help a stranger even when it costs you everything, the universe finds a way to give you back more than you ever dreamed possible. Not because kindness is transactional, but because living with integrity, choosing compassion, doing the right thing, even when it's hard, those choices shape not just individual moments but entire lives. Clara had helped a stranger in an alley because it was right, and that choice had transformed everything. Years later, when Mia asked her mother to tell the story of how she and Elias met, Clara would always say the same thing. "I made a choice to help someone who needed it. I lost my job, I lost my security, I lost everything I thought I needed. But then I found everything I never knew I was looking for. Your dad, our family, the work I do, all of it came from that one moment of choosing kindness over comfort." "So being kind is always right?" Mia would ask. "Being kind is always worth it," Clara would correct. "Even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you, because that's when kindness matters most. When you have something to lose and you choose compassion anyway." And that lesson, more than any wealth or success or recognition, was what Clara hoped to pass on to her children. That character is revealed in the moments when no one's watching and there's nothing to gain. That doing right matters more than doing what's easy. That sometimes the cost of compassion is high, but the price of indifference is higher. If Clara and Elias's story touched your heart, I need you to do something for me right now. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that kindness matters, that good things do happen to good people, that one moment of compassion can change everything. Hit that like button if you believe that doing the right thing, even when it costs you, is never wrong. Drop a comment and tell me about a time you chose kindness, even when it was hard. I want to hear your stories. And if you're new to this channel, welcome to a community that believes in second chances, in the power of compassion, and in love that transforms lives. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories that prove good still exists in this world. Thank you for watching Clara and Elias's journey. Thank you for believing that integrity matters, that compassion changes lives, and that sometimes when you lose everything, You make room for something better than you ever imagined. Remember, you never know whose life you're changing when you choose to help. You never know when the stranger you save might save you right back. Be Clara. Choose kindness, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you, because that's when it matters most. That's when you discover who you really are. And sometimes, that's when you find everything you never knew you needed. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep choosing compassion. Keep seeing people when the world makes them invisible. Keep being the person who stops when everyone else walks by. Because that's how we change the world. One act of kindness at a time.